Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Formal Attire. This story didn't happen directly to me, but to a former colleague from a few years back. We both worked as system consultants, which meant we would sometimes travel to client sites during the phases of a project that required us to be there in person. Since travel costs would either affect the project's budget or be passed on to the client, we were encouraged to plan ahead, pack light, choose reasonable airfare, and keep hotel and meal costs under control. Most of the time, this approach worked well. If anything unexpected came up, a quick call to explain the situation would usually clear things up. Our expenses would be approved and we'd move on. That was until our company took on a new client. This particular client seemed to operate in a different universe, where practical constraints just didn't apply. They made a point to tell us that any expenses, whether from our company or directly from my colleague, who was a contractor, would need to be very mindful of costs. So on our first in-person trip for this client, we booked the lowest fare that still fit the schedule, meaning we traveled without checked luggage and showed up in button-down shirts, dark chinos and black slip-on shoes. Not the most formal attire, but appropriate for every other client until then. However, this client had other expectations. We were taken aside and told that the C-suite management was surprised that we hadn't shown up in suits, formal shoes, and freshly pressed shirts. I was caught off guard, but my contractor colleague kept his cool and simply requested a quick email with the requirement for suits, ironed shirts, and formal shoes. Surprisingly, the client sent the email. For our next trip, things got interesting. My colleague and I coordinated to book similar flight times and the same hotel, but with a few changes this time. First, we were flying in the evening before. Second, we were checking our luggage to fit 2 suits and fresh shirts for each day. And third, the No Frills hotel just outside of town wouldn't do this time. Since they wanted us in completely wrinkle-free attire, we'd need a hotel with ironing facilities. So we booked our business hotel downtown. After the meeting, our company's invoice and the contractor's expenses claim were both rejected. But thanks to the email, we argued that the formal attire was the client's own request. The controller refused to budge though, so the contractor immediately stopped working on the project and let my management know, recommending I consider the same. After the client missed a deadline and a few remote meetings, each time receiving a short reply that there was an outstanding payment, the controller finally relented. The C-suite dropped the dress code, and we completed the project before parting ways with the client. Interestingly, I've been contacted by them through LinkedIn since then, in an attempt to recruit me. The next story is called Electronic Calculators. Back in the day, long before the internet or mobile phones, one of my algebra instructors strictly forbade us from using electronic calculators during an exam. He even wrote it on the blackboard in big letters. So there I am, in the back row, working through the answers faster than anyone else. The teacher comes up, holds out his hand, and asks me to hand over my calculator. I hold up my Picket slide rule and say, "Do you mean this?" He says, "I said no calculators during the exam." I reply, "You said no electronic calculators. Show me where the battery goes, and I'll give it up." He paused for a moment, seemed to think it over, and then just walked back to his desk. I finished the test and turned in my answers about 30 minutes before anyone else. When I got my grade back, it was a 98%. I missed 1 out of 50 due to a decimal point slip. Of course, there were the usual comments from the other students like, "Cheater," but honestly, they could have studied harder. The last story is called Wouldn't Stop Calling. For the past year, I've been getting calls from contractors asking if I want work done on my property. They start by calling me by a name that isn't mine and asking if I live at an address that also isn't mine. I tell them I'm not that person and ask them to stop calling. I mention that I don't own any property and I request to be put on their do not call list. Sometimes they just hang up and other times they get rude, saying things like, "Why would we stop calling? You gave us your number." For a long time I would just hang up as soon as I heard the telltale beeping sound that comes through when they call. But after over a year of this, I decided to go along with it. Now when they ask if I'm that person, I say, "Yep, that's me." When they ask if I still live at the address, I say, "Yep, that's my house." When they ask if I want solar, landscaping, painting, driveway work, whatever, I say, "Yeah, absolutely." Then when they tell me they'll have someone come out, I give them a time during the worst traffic, like late afternoon. When they call to say they've been waiting for 10 minutes, I just tell them, "Oh, I had to run to the store real quick. I'll be back in about 10 minutes. It's oddly satisfying. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.